Hey, welcome back to Happy Little No Trees. Today we are playing around with my new friend, and we're still working out some of the kinks. Today I've been addressing some issues with the blur, how it is thinking about calculating and rendering halation. This was a sticking point. I didn't want to release this until I had halation figured out. And so we're still releasing it as a beta, but you can see this remjet layer if we're looking at, oops, not there, it's zoomed to fit, so you can actually see the image. We have this image, the sky is blown out, the girl is a bit overexposed as well on her side. So there's spots that are overexposed, and part of that was we've even adjusted one stop of exposure down. The original, like if we were looking at it through OpenDRT, would be something like this, where we had it's Davinci Wide Gamut and to Davinci Wide Intermediate, and you can see here just with nothing going on, there's a lot of overexposure going on, which makes it a fun place to play around with. We had too much light coming into the camera when we were playing around with our film emulation. And I have Genesis set up as well. You can see I haven't really tweaked this stock too much. I mean, we could go crazy and fiddle with some things and kind of shape that image a little bit. But I kind of left it with we're just going to flip it back to stock. And you go, whoa, that's pretty bad. That's kind of because we have to tweak some of this. This is a little bit better. Just to get it out of the gate in a happy place. But playing around with how halation works in the simulator, it's kind of been a trick, because right now the halation model isn't taking into account how we've adjusted exposure, which is our input condition, and that creates a problem. And so you can see it's not treating it well, and I'm a big fan. This is probably where the default is going to be, is -705, and a little bit bigger. The bigger it goes, the smaller the film stock was. So this isn't bad visually. You can see we are putting a little bit of bloom into the layers around her sleeve. It's not entirely smooth, and part of that is because we need to address the output condition. So if we think about it, like if we go, let's see, this image should be similar setup. Zoomed fit, and just so you can see what's going on. Let's see if we expose up. Are we getting anything that's going to show up as halation in this image? Even the pumpkins are. I got some glow on that one pumpkin down there in the corner. When you really make it a shitty film stock, like a less than 16 millimeter. But one of the other images, what else do I got around here in my image folder that would have some good vibes? Just playing around with some various things that I keep floating around in my stock folder from various projects. Just copy that. Yeah, that's because this isn't right, is it? No. Is she? I can't remember. I can never remember what I did with this image. So we'll just do this and make sure we're not passing a negative to it, which is where the problem was for that. You can see how her hair is responding. and the edge of her shoulder. And so if we increase the backscatter radius, you see it's responding differently. And in the input condition, we did make that, because if we make a tweak here, we're going to have to make a tweak to the calculation for the halation control. This is my preferential range, not to be more than 12 pixels in terms of how it's doing its thing. I'm just going to bring this down a notch, and that is just very nice halation. We can look in tight on that. That is very, like, that's what you'd expect. And then we can fade that out back to off right there. Yeah. So mathematically speaking, let's think about this for a second. If we're just playing around with it, the issue we're having, if we look at the code really quickly, is we're not accounting for that exposure adjustment, which means we're going to have to figure out how to account for it. That exposure adjustment is kind of just a last minute tweak to the light coming into the film stock. And so that technically needs to run almost in its own kernel. Or it just needs, the thing of how I set up the halation is that it's doing all the hard math one time. So all the blur, everything like that, it's creating an alpha map of what is the roll off of the curve, and it only has to measure that one time, so you're not doing it per frame. It stores that for the entire image in a single pass and then moves on to do everything else. So it has to run one time versus running every time for every pixel individually. So that's one of the ways in which I boosted the speed of doing halation. So yeah, I don't know. But the hard part is, how do you have controls that are controlled and limited so that when we're talking about it and we're working with it, I didn't want more than 4 controls for halation. Like, I felt like that was, even 4 is too much. Like, this should just be, if it's above 0.9, consider it as a point for halation. I know you could trigger it. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Leave a comment and tell me what tools you'd like. Comparatively for halation. What do you use for halation? Dehancer, all that. And this is a different film stock rendering, obviously. If we turn on halation for Genesis, switch to precision mode, you see we're getting that same faint little bleed out right there. 16 millimeter. It was a lot heavier. And then 65 is just barely there. I have a little strength control that kind of tweaks and changes how it runs. But the thing is, it is a performance sucker. This is a 4K timeline. If you do anything besides the 65 millimeter in precision mode, it just eats the frames up. And so hopefully maybe they'll address that, and it's a simple solution depending on how they have it set up. Do they have grain? I don't have grain turned on here. Yeah, you can see here, if we wanted to look at the grain between the two. I'll look at my grain. I need to condense down these grain controls too. This is too much. Nobody knows what any of this means for creating grain. So yeah, again, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on halation. What should the controls be if I'm making a halation model that is filmic that you would like to see? If anything, you want to play around with Photo Chemist, there's a link in the description that you can get your hands on it over at dec18studios.com. Until next time, this has been a happy little no tree day.